Hi, and welcome to our 126th test and measurement video. Today, we'll look at the capabilities of the Tektronix MDO 3000 series oscilloscope. They are default setup and auto set, both quick and easy solutions that can get you out of some baffling problems preventing acquisition and display of signals of interest. Default setup is activated by pressing the small button below the middle of the screen. It restores the oscilloscope default settings, allowing the user to start with a blank slate, so to speak. You would expect this to happen whenever you power down the instrument, but that is not the case. Even unplugging the instrument does not default it, which means that at the start of the next work session, or in the event of a power outage, you can continue where you left off. For example, if you were displaying a square wave, after cycling the power, the oscilloscope would go to channel 1, the default, but after pressing AFG, the square wave would reappear. Now, when we press default setup, the square wave goes away. When AFG is again pressed, the default sine wave reappears. Accordingly, you could say that the power button does a partial default setup. Notice also that when you do a default setup, a vertical menu appears at the right of the display that permits the user to restore the previous screen by pressing the soft key associated with undo default setup. Of course, pressing default setup does not affect time and date or firmware and optional applications or upgrades. All this is very simple, but it becomes more critical when certain operations, the results of which are not visible on the screen, are performed, such as bandwidth limiting. In order to reduce broad spectrum noise, you or another previous user may have temporarily cut the bandwidth down to a lower level. In this event, the reduced bandwidth survives power cycling, and you may wonder why you are unable to acquire and display high-frequency signals up to the instrument's full bandwidth. The solution is to press a channel button, then the soft key associated with bandwidth, and restore full bandwidth. Either that, or, if appropriate, press default setup and start over. Depending on what you are doing, you may want to press default setup before starting or during a project, especially if nothing is working as expected. Auto set is activated by pressing the small button at the top, above the large zoom knob in the Wave Inspector section. Early oscilloscope users had to twirl multiple interacting knobs to get a readable display. Today's digital storage oscilloscopes have the auto start button. When it is pressed, the oscilloscope detects a signal's amplitude, frequency, and offset. Then it automatically and instantly adjusts settings to create a usable display, a great time saver. As an example, we'll turn to the arbitrary function generator, which is currently connected via BNC cable to channel 1. The default sine wave is displayed. Pressing Waveform opens the vertical waveform menu on the left. Any of the 13 waveforms generated internally and the user-created arbitrary waveform can be chosen and displayed. Many of them have similar default parameters, but when you scroll down to Gaussian, Lorentz exponential rise, exponential decay, and Haversine, the waveforms are unstable and do not provide useful information. Pressing AutoSet corrects these settings. AutoSet is frequently used, and here again, if nothing, including default setup seems to work, AutoSet is frequently the answer. Thanks for watching.